Ever wonder why some of the toughest athletes swear by those brutal 5 a.m. workouts? It's not just about getting fit, it's about training your mind to show up when it's hard. Welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. Super excited that you're tuning into today's show. Now, before I get into today's show, I like to go over anything fitness, nutrition, anything that may be going on in my life that I believe that you may find interesting. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I do enjoy this segment of the show. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about building mental resilience through early morning workouts. But before I get into today's episode, again, I like to go over anything that I think that you may find interesting or just talk through what's going on in my life, whether you have an interest in that or not. I'm hopeful that it is helpful to you out there listening. This week's been tough, running wise. It's been pretty hot. It's been about 90 degrees each day that I've been coming back from my runs. And it's been I can just, when I'm running this time of year when it's so hot, I typically just don't run with a t-shirt on. If it's like today's run where it was 75, I'm fine with that. But when it's hitting 90, I find I sweat so much that the shirt just becomes like almost like heavy, and it's honestly super hard to get off at the end of the run. So with that said, I'll be running and I can just on my arms and on my chest, and just like the sweat will just be dripping off. So it's been a little bit tough running this week. I think anyone that's been running in the heat, and I ran through the winter, and that had its own challenges. And if you go back and listen to the podcasts in January and February, you can hear those challenges. But living in a state that has typically 4 seasons, so obviously fall, winter, spring, summer, you're gonna get different variations every 3 months or so. And this, in the season that we're in right now, summer has definitely made running a little bit more challenging. So running in the 90-degree heat, it's tough, but just because it's tough, there's no excuses to be made. And I think back to a podcast I was listening to this week by Nick Bear. I highly recommend checking out his podcast if you haven't done so. And he just talks about not letting excuses get in the way. And even though it was very hot out, I wanted to push myself to get out the door and get running. Not necessarily I'm going to be pushing myself on my runs, because I'm not going to be an idiot per se when I'm going out and running in the heat. And I'm just thinking of a story I'll share a little bit later in today's episode. But you don't want to be stupid when you're going out there and running in the heat. I run with a handheld water bottle. I put 500 milligrams of electrolytes in there. When I'm working out at the gym in the morning before my run, I have 500 milligrams of electrolytes. I just take BPN's product. Their electrolytes, those seem to work great for me. Whatever your preference may be. It's interesting in the sense, so I was, not to digress again too far on today's episode, but I was in a cardiac urgent care, nothing serious going on. More something came up on EKG, and they wanted to make sure everything was, my primary care wanted to make sure everything was fine. And when I went to this cardiac urgent care or walk-in clinic, as I guess that's how I would call it, I was telling the nurse, I was like, "Oh, I'm running a half marathon tomorrow." That's what I was looking for. Running a half marathon tomorrow. And I was like, I've just been, making, just loading up my electrolytes. Is that good? And she mentioned how a lot of electrolytes that you take don't have high amounts of potassium in it, which is what you're really looking for, is a combination of the electrolytes and the potassium. I can't remember the exact reasoning why. I just know that she mentioned that. And I went home and I looked at the BPN electrolytes, and there was, it was a very limited amount of potassium, but I take it. I haven't had any problems, but I just thought that was an interesting tidbit that the nurse had shared with me when I was there, and making sure everything was honestly okay. Now, Monday's run was weird. I say weird, so I went and I learned this, where the first time it was about 90 degrees. I went outside, went running, first mile fast, 2 or 3 miles in, just absolutely dying. So I learned, okay, when it's really hot out, I will go a little bit slower in the beginning. I'm not trying to hit any PRs. Like when it's like 65 degrees out, I'm going to try to hit a PR because the weather's great. and my heart rate's not going to be elevated. I mean, there's times where I'm running like 9-minute miles, my heart rate's like 170, 175. Not ideal. I mean, I'm really just slowing down my jog here and having my heart rate up so high. That's not necessarily what I want. So if I start to do like a tempo run, my heart rate gets into the 180s. That's not really what I'm looking for on my run. So with that said, took the run on Monday easier in the sense that okay, I'm gonna not push myself too hard because I'm running in 95-degree heat. So went through that, went through the run, finished the run. It's like okay, like I don't feel too bad. Got back inside on Monday and took a shower after the run. Came out of the shower, went to sit down to do some work, and could just not focus on my computer. It's like I almost couldn't read the words that I was looking at, and I just couldn't focus. Eventually, that came back to me, but that was like, a little scary. But it's like I just attributed to just running out in the heat. Tuesday, so that was like 7 miles. Tuesday ran like 8 miles in the heat, and that was brutal. That was absolutely brutal. It was 2 miles in, and that was the last place I wanted to be was outside running in this heat. I'm not sure if it was a workout in the morning that I did or just from dealing with the heat the day before, but again, wanted to push myself, go out there and get the 8 miles in. Did that, came in, laid down on our tile. Like as soon as you walk in our door, we just have tile. There's no sunlight on it, so it just stays cold most of the time. So laid down on that, put a pillow under my head, had my wife grab a frozen bag of peas, put that on my chest, and just lied there with my eyes closed for about 5 minutes, and then got up and went about my day, took a shower, no problems at all focusing. And then by Wednesday, again, 95 degrees. I like to do at least one workout a week where I'm running up a good amount of hills. Typically, I do that on Tuesdays. Ended up saying I'm going to do this on Wednesday this week. And just the timing was going to be a little bit better doing the hills on Wednesday. And so there's two ways I can go. I can go one where I go down part of it and then I go up it. Or I can go the other way where it's like up the whole time. So there's two different routes that I could run. So I decided I'm gonna do the harder of the two routes, and that was definitely tough. That was 5 or 6 miles or 7 miles I should say, and going up the steepest part of the run. So you go up this just giant hill and then you get to the top of it, and then you're on a straightaway, but it has like a slight little incline. So the entire time that I was going up the hill and the straight incline, to running, to basically taking a right at the end of this road was probably about 10 minutes or so. And that was just in direct sunlight, no shade, no nothing. So that was definitely super hot running. But it was funny when I got back. Yeah, when I got back after when I got back after Wednesday's run, I was a little tired, but honestly didn't feel too bad overall. And I think it's attributed to just becoming used to the heat, and now the weather's going back down. So I'm all right with that. But I just like talking about it because I'm sure there's other people listening to the show where you're running outside in the heat, and it's just brutal. But I know like it's making me mentally tougher because like the last thing that I want to do is like, oh, I'm gonna skip my run today because it's too hot out, or I'm gonna skip my run today because it's too cold out. As long as I am not being dumb about it, if I'm running in the cold, I make sure I have the right gear on. If I'm running in the heat, I make sure I have my water bottle on. I make sure I run a little bit slower so that my heart rate doesn't elevate as quickly and and as fast as I would like it to be. Really, the only, and I wouldn't even call them excuses. Like the probably the two times throughout the year, or if there's any times throughout the year where I've missed out on a run, it's been either I've been sick. Obviously, that's not ideal to run where I am, coughing up a ton of mucus. Not to sound disgusting, but you obviously don't want to be going on a run when that's going on. There was a time I woke up, went to go run, and the whole driveway and the whole road was a sheet of ice, and the whole cars were iced over. That's not going to be fun running on ice. I'm not trying to slip and fall, and have to hit my life alert. Not what I am looking to do. And then I believe the last part would be when I've been running, and if it's like too slushy out there or just absolutely downpouring. I've ran it through rain, I've ran it through hail. That doesn't really bother me, but if it's like a monsoon out there, it's more just like dealing with the shoes aspect of it, where it's like now my shoes are soaking wet, like they squish. I get it. It's just not enjoyable time to be out there. But outside of that, I'll typically try to run as much as I can through all of the elements. And again, this just goes back to not making any excuses. Where sure, there's gonna be certain times I don't expect you to go out there running on a sheet of ice and to slip and fall. I've been dumb enough where I have run in pretty terrible weather throughout the winter, and I'm bracing to fall every time, and I've slipped. I haven't fallen. Hopefully, I don't fall, but it's just not making excuses. It's just going out there and grinding, whether you feel like it or not. Yesterday, running after leg day and running hills, and I could just feel I did a variation of the Romanian deadlift. Sometimes I'll do barbell Romanian deadlifts. Yesterday, for the first time in about a month or two, I did dumbbell Romanian deadlifts, and I feel like sometimes I can get a better stretch doing the Romanian deadlifts versus your standard barbell deadlifts. And at least for me, and my hammies feel shot today and just super sore. And I felt that yesterday. But I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do the hard thing, which is running these hills in this heat today. So I hope if you're listening to the show, I'd recommend checking out Nick's podcast. But for me, it was just not making excuses. Just because it's hot out doesn't mean that I can't push myself to be uncomfortable. And I think that's a great leadway into today's episode, which again is building mental resilience through early morning workouts. Now, if you're listening to the show, I don't want you to think like, oh, I have to work out early in the morning if I can't work out late. For me, someone that's a father, husband, had a job, currently searching for a job, but I also have been running my own side hustle, so that's keeping me pretty busy at the moment trying to grow that. And I find that the early morning workouts work best for me where people are still asleep and there's not too much going on in the world. And again, this isn't a takeaway from anyone that works out after work. Maybe you're someone that works out 7 to 8. I had a roommate in college who was a bodybuilder where he would work out every night from about 8 to 10, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and he was absolutely jacked. That's that's how he did it. For me, I just I prefer to do early morning workouts, but that's not to say you can't build mental resilience. I mean, the last thing I would want to do is work a full day and go to the gym afterwards. I'd be exhausted. So I think there's that same sort of mental resilience that you have there that I feel getting my workout in before work. So the focus of today's episode is going to be on early mornings, mental toughness, and fatherhood. And the mental toughness aspect comes into it that sometimes there's mornings my alarm goes off typically about 4:50, sometimes 4:15 like this morning, but 4:50 today. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. I felt like I had to cough, but then nothing was going to come out. So with that said, getting up in the winter, it's 4:50 in the morning. My daughter's still asleep. My wife is still asleep. The house is dark. It's dark outside. I know when I'm going to get in the car. It's going to be cold. And it's almost like every aspect of my body is telling me, stay in bed, don't go outside. But I try not to listen to that voice because I know if I do stay in bed and I don't get up and I don't go to the gym, what's to say the next day and the next day and the next day? And when I make those excuses and when I break, and that's why I find that I push myself by getting up early to making sure I go into the gym, that even pushing through runs and pushing through uncomfortable challenges because I want to build that mental resilience where not every day do I feel like going for a run or every day do I feel like going for a workout, but I do it every day because honestly I'm scared of what happens on the day that I'm like, I'm going to pack it in. I'm not going to go for this run or I'm not going to go for this workout. Like, am I going to start building those habits and let those negative thoughts take over my mind? No, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go do my workout. I'm going to go do my run. Every single time I've had that little voice in my mind that says, let's just take it easy today. Like, we've pushed ourselves all week. and then I do the opposite of what it's telling me, which is to go out and do this run and to do this lift, I've felt better 99 times out of 100. Though at one time out of 100 is I go on a run where I have a lot of, mucus coming up, which I talked about a little bit earlier, and I come back and I'm 10 times worse. So again, it's not being an idiot, but it's understanding the discomfort that you feel and the resistance that you feel versus actually being physically and capable of going out and achieving what you want to do. Early morning workouts are a mental game. And just getting up before the chaos is going to build discipline in your life. When things get tough in your life, maybe it's a job, maybe it's something going on with family, whatever that may be. I know that when I get up before my wife, before my daughter, I get up, I go to the gym, and I get my workout in. Like, I've conquered the biggest task of the day. Nothing that I do the rest of the day is going to seem as hard as when I'm getting up at 4:50, and it's a grind. It's Thursday right now. This week I ran 27 miles already. I've done 4 tough workouts at the gym. I got more running to do tomorrow. Another workout. I'm tired. I've been working all week. I've been grinding. For my side hustle, had 7 sales calls, which I don't know if that's a lot, if that's too little, but 7 sales calls this week, which is an above average week for me. Having interviews and then taking care of my daughter, making meals, and just being a husband. And obviously, I gotta make meals, but there's just a lot going on in this week, and it'd be easy to pack in and be like, okay, I could use an extra rest day tomorrow, but no, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna get my run in, and I'm gonna continue to build that discipline. Getting up in the morning forces you to have personal accountability. So many people just don't have accountability in their life. They just eat whatever they want, watch whatever they want, do whatever they want. That's what you want to do, fine by me. But I want to be someone that's reading books, whether that's business books, personal development books, whatever that may be. Someone that's listening to podcasts. While I'm driving in the car, I like to listen to Jim Rohn tapes. Then obviously the fitness aspect of it, the nutrition aspect of it, being a good husband, being a good father, making sure that I'm not putting garbage into my mind all the time. And it forces you to be accountable, because if there ever is a time where I do sleep in, I'm just gonna feel absolutely terrible. I'm gonna be like, I blew my opportunity, and it's not gonna be a great feeling. So it just forces me to have this accountability in any area of my life. Yeah, I lost my job, but like that's not gonna hold me back. Like, I'm not gonna just wait to get another job. I'm gonna make sure that I'm doing everything in my power of going out there and doing what I can, whether that's applying to jobs each day. Even right now, looking at taking an EMS course or becoming an EMT, looking at the police academy, just making sure like I'm not gonna just wait like for someone to tell me what to do. I'm gonna make sure that I'm being very proactive, and this is just in a season of my life that I'm dealing with right now. Now, when it comes to your mental reps and your physical reps, I find that they're just equally important. Physical reps is obviously the workout at the gym. Your mental reps is getting up out of bed when it's cold, when you want to stay in, and getting to the gym, or getting up on a January morning at 6 a.m. and going for a run in the dark, in the cold, and it's 0 degrees outside, and everyone's sleeping, no lights are on, but you're just doing it because you're just continuing to build those physical and your mental reps. Now, I want to dive a little bit into fatherhood here, where getting up early in the morning and getting your workout in, I find it just matters more when I'm a father versus when I wasn't a father and I could work out at any time of the day. Your time is limited. So early workouts are what gives you more control in your life. Once my daughter's up and my daughter comes home from daycare, there's going to be a lot that's going on in my day in between those hours. So typically from 8 to 4, there's a lot that is going on in my day. So I can reclaim control for a few hours, whether say typically about 5 to 7. That just is going to give me the time to make sure that I get my workout in before all of the chaos of the day is going to, throw me through a loop, because we never know what's going to happen every day. We have a good idea, but there's things that come up that we just can never have expected. I want to set an example of commitment for my daughter, even if she can't see it yet. Now, when I come home from the gym, and if she happens to be awake, I'll ask her where I was, and now she'll say gym. Not that she has any idea what I do at the gym, what the gym is, nothing in the slightest clue. But I want her to know that as she grows older, that I was going to the gym and running I wouldn't say every single day, but a good majority of the week, and that I'm putting in the effort and I'm committed to this cause of bettering myself. And the goal is that it's going to rub off on her so that she puts the commitment in and she puts that effort in someday. I find that there's this internal pride of showing up to the gym early in the morning, or going for runs when it would have been easy not to. So I talked about it a little bit in apologies. I talked about it a little bit before in previous episodes, but decided I'm going to volunteer with our local EMS department. I was working at my job in corporate America and just talking about marketing and KPIs, and we got to do this for the client. We got to have these conversion rates and these numbers. And one day I was like, what's this all for? Like, I'm just making the client, like, I'm doing all their work. They're not the ones stressing over this too much. I want to do something that I can actually make an impact on people. Decided I'm going to go totally outside of my comfort zone. Became volunteer EMS, and Thursday was my first shift that I was on last Thursday. And the shift runs from 6 to 6, so 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And got into bed, went to bed. Nothing had come in yet. Went to bed about 6 p.m. No, I did not go to bed at 6 p.m. I went to bed about 9 p.m. 10:30 a call came in, and ended up going out to the call. Luckily, it wasn't I want to say too hard, too bad, but this gentleman had fallen out of his bed and he needed help getting back in. So got him back into the bed, signed off on all the paperwork, everything was good. Got back to so I'd been sleeping for about an hour and a half at that point. Pager went off, got up, went out, helped this gentleman out. Got back to the house about a little after 11:30, and it took me, I don't know, maybe an hour to fall asleep. I was all amped up for his call, going out there. And then, so that was about 12:30 that I finally fell back asleep. Alarm goes off at 4:50. Now I have a choice to make. Do I stay in bed? Or do I get up and go to the gym and get my run in? So on this particular day, I decided I'm going to flip-flop it a little bit. And I want to get my run in now before I work out. So actually ended up getting up, going out, getting my run in. Stayed nearby to where I was in case another call came in. You have about 9 minutes to get to the station. I'm about 5 minutes away. I know that I could get there on this route where, again, I stayed relatively close to my house, but got the 5 miles of running in. And then flip-flopped it where I had breakfast, dropped my daughter off at daycare, and then got in the car, went to the gym, I got my workout in. And it would have been easy to make an excuse of why I'm not going to the gym. People would be like, totally understand that. Like, your sleep was very much disrupted, but put in the effort anyway. And that's just what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's not going to be perfect for anyone, but it just, again, having that pride of showing up even when it would have been easy not to. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about and give you some practical tips to make early training stick. The first and foremost is bedtime. Just make sure you're going to bed. And it's been said in there's books and studies. I like to get into bed when I'm getting up at 4:50. I like to get in bed about 9, turn out no later than 9:30. So I know, okay, I'm going to be getting at least 7 hours. If you're trying to get up on 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep, if you can function on that, more power to you. That doesn't wake up for me, but I just make sure that I'm getting enough good quality sleep every single night. And then I always make sure that I lay out my clothes the night before. So that I'll be putting out my gym shoes, my socks, my shorts, my t-shirt. I lay it out in the bathroom because that's where I go and change in the morning while my wife is still sleeping so I can see what I'm doing. And I find that just laying my gear out every morning, I don't have to scramble for it. I don't have to look for it. I can just get up out of bed. I can get dressed. I can get in the car and I can go to the gym. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode on building mental resilience through early morning workouts. Early morning workouts aren't about the time, but they're about who you become and the discipline, the accountability, and the pride that you give yourself. And if you're another dad, mother, or anyone else out there, I want to encourage you to build your inner toughness one morning at a time. Thanks so much for tuning in today's episode. I hope you tune into next week's episode where I discuss the role of discipline in my fitness and my fatherhood journey.